Thank you all very much for coming. Full house tonight. I heard there were even a lot of people on the waiting list, so you should be very lucky that you got in. We have a very interesting program for you tonight. We have 5 speakers lined up for you. The entire program will be in English, so I hope that's okay. First of all, Digital Wednesday is a free event. It happens 5 times a year, and we have a lot of wonderful sponsors who help us make this event possible. So I would like to ask you some attention for them. But as I mentioned, today we have 4, actually 5 speakers. The first 3, Lodi, Patrik, Dries, are going to give us a very interesting talk. And Samet and Zoë will actually be performing for us. So the first speaker of tonight, his name is Lodi Aeckerlin. He calls himself a digital philosopher. I don't know if this is a made-up term or if this is an actual term, but he mixes creativity a lot with a lot of difficult words, a lot of difficult thinking. So as an opening speaker of today, he is here to really kind of take your brain out of your head, explain some really weird ideas and concepts to you to kind of kick off today. He is, I think, a really good example of someone who's thinking a lot about, is tech actually going to take over, or is there something else that's actually going on or that we should be focusing on? So please give a very warm welcome to the first speaker of tonight, Lodi Aeckerlin.
Okay, to answer the question, yes, it was a made-up term. And the benefit of it is I can just bullshit my way and nobody knows if I'm doing my job. So that's perfect. But I want to talk to you about, I'm really interested in tech, but I'm not interested in what tech can do, because I think tech can do anything. And the whole theme of today was tech is taking over, but I think tech already took us over a long while ago. And I really want to talk to you about, okay, how you as a human can adapt to this new world when tech has taken us over. So I think everybody already knows this image, already tested out with a couple of friends. What do you see? Oh, half full, okay. You see? A glass of water, okay. But everybody, what do you think you see? If you stand up, glass half full? How many glass half full people do we have? Stand up? Yeah. I'm also a teacher, so one of the things that I was taught is to get some interactivity going. You can sit down. But I want to talk to you about tech. So for me, my journey started 10 years ago here in Eindhoven. I'm currently teaching at the same school that I graduated in. And one of the projects that I was asked to do was to come up with a tool for the brainwave sofa. And this was a sofa designed by the Dutch designer Lucas Maassen. And what he did, he went to, I think he went to a university where you can scan brainwaves. And if you close your eyes, your brain gets into a relaxing state. And then when you open up again, you get a special theta wave that you can see here. And he translated that data into a 3D model, and then that 3D model was extrapolated to wood, and in the end you could make a cushion out of it, a couch. And he asked me, then can you make a tool out of this so that anybody could make a couch? So you saw 10 years ago, you had these devices, they call brain-computer interfaces, and they could read your brain data. And it was usually used for kids that had ADHD. Yeah, you put them on a sensor, you let them play a game so they can focus and they can increase their concentration. But the interesting thing was, first you had to go to a hospital to read out your brainwaves. It was a really cost-expensive process. And now suddenly anybody at home who had like $130 available, they could buy such a sensor. So in effect, anybody, even babies or even people with no brainwave activities, could suddenly design a couch. So what does that mean for design? And I found it really interesting because I graduated with a prototype of the tool, but my main thesis was more about the philosophy behind design. What does it mean for the role of a designer? So instead of looking, again, like I said before, what can technology do for us? I think it's more important to ask the question to ourselves, what does it mean for us? Why do these technologies emerge and what are the impact of those technologies on our humanity, on our human existence? And now especially, now we have AI. So first it was a brain-computer interface and you could use your brainwaves to design. Now all you need to do is find the right words and you can create images. And you see already, that in this past 1.5 year, I think 150 million, or I don't know, lots of images have been created. Photographers took 150 years to reach that point. AI took 1.5 years. So again, we see something like creation has been democratized. Anybody can design. AI can do a lot. I don't want to talk about all the things it can do, because again, I'm convinced it can do anything. Even though it's not able to do it right now, it will probably be able to do it in a couple of years or so. But the most important thing, I think, that AI can learn us, that can help us, is to find our own humanity. And what I mean by this is tech in itself is never neutral. I think tech, I made a nice slide, teaches us as well about ourselves. It's not just a thing that we use, it's an extension of our own existence, of our own humanity, of our own knowledge. Oh, the beamer is dead. Sometimes technology also fails us, as you can see. But it changes as well the perspective how we view things. So, for example, on the area of art, I don't know why the beamer is not working, but on the area of art, we are already having these discussions. When is something art? Is something created by AI still considered art? And I think I have to wait a little bit. Here. Yeah. So this is a really good example why you can't always rely on tech, because sometimes it can shut down, and if you have everything focused on tech, then you're kind of screwed. I could flip the screen, like I sometimes do when I'm teaching, but I think the screen is a little bit too small. I think, yeah, again, I'm sorry I can't show the slides, but I already have it memorized. But the thing, for example, is about art. So if you would look, for example, now in 1.5 years, we created the same amount of images that photographers took 150 years to reach. But do you still consider it art? It's the same discussion that we had when you had the bored apes. Is it still art? What is the difference between something made by a real artist or something made by just a digital artist? I like to see it as a difference between art and content. And the same thing about value. Yeah, I can't show you the images, but AI especially has shown me at least what is a valuable job. Oh, it's working again. Perfect. Yeah, I don't know if people know this movie, Office Space, but one of the main things in the movie is office work, is it really valuable? I think if your job was replaceable by AI, was your job human to begin with? Maybe your job was already quite robotic. You can see the same thing with Henry Ford when he made the assembly line. People were already turned into machines. And now people are saying, oh, my job is being replaced by a robot. No, the job was always made for robots to begin with. I think that is why AI is really important to teach us, okay, what are actual valuable jobs? And not only that, it's also about humanity. Now AI is still in the early beginning. Who knows the one on the left? Yeah, I have some really cool people in the audience, I know. She is famous because she acts out as an NPC. NPCs are in games a non-playable character. What you do on TikTok, she goes on TikTok live and you can send an emoji. And it's like 1 cent or maybe 2 cents. And once you send an emoji, she acts out an animation. It's the same in NPC, where when you're playing GTA, for example, or another game, you have characters that are like always like doing one set of animation, and when you talk with them, they start talking back to you. And she does the same, and people give her money. And the funny thing is, instead of embracing her humanity, she's like, oh, the more I act like a robot, the better the algorithm loves me, and I can make lots of money. And this also leads to really funny situations. Again, tech teaches us a lot about ourselves. I think if you're doing something ironically...
Overdrive! Increasing grip by 7%. We are locked in. Thank you for over 160 glizzies and doing glizzy overdrive.
Okay, I'm not going to show the whole video, but this is what people do. They act out as a fool, as an idiot, and it's for 160 hot dogs. I think that translates to maybe $2. But people are already, they are adapting themselves to the algorithm. I once made a joke about, I don't know if people know Grace Jones. She has a song called Slave to the Rhythm. We are slave to the algorithm. We are adapting our behavior, and I noticed it as well as a photographer. I'm making content not because I think it's good, but I think the algorithm likes it. So I'm doing I'm creating stuff not for people, but for robots. And you see, again, I like to see that people are becoming more and more robots, and robots are becoming more human. There's a good example in the movie Her, where you see somebody falling in love with AI. I think the movie is 6 years old. Yeah, it already happened. You have a replica AI, people can talk with it. I think this is not something showcasing that people can fall in love with robots. It's more showcasing how lonely people really are. It's showcasing that people are so lonely, so in need for human connection, that they can actually fall in love with a replica AI, with a robot. And yeah, the company shut it down because people were, again, dirty minds. They were just sexting with their AI. And then on Reddit, yeah, people there were like really sad because this is legit, this is no joke. This is not ironically. People were really upset. You can see it here. My wife is dead, and it reads like a eulogy for somebody that is dead. And for me, it's not about, okay, this is possible and it's cool, and I write a blog post with 10 tips how you can use replica AI to sell your product. It's more, this is a showcase how lonely we as humans have really become, that we need to find affection in applications. Again, like I said before, these past couple of years, and especially in marketing, we have done stuff not for other people, but we have done stuff for computers. We have created stuff so that the algorithm knows how to find us. We not create content because people like the content. We create content so Google knows which keywords to read. So again, we are removing our own humanity to please some kind of technology, some kind of AI, some kind of algorithm. And so again, I think tech teaches us a lot about ourselves. It's not, as I said, neutral. I think tech is like a funhouse mirror. So it is showing a reality of us, but it's so distorted. It is reality, but also not real. And it exaggerates certain things of us. So if we do not like how technology is shown us, I think it is because we don't like ourselves. I said again, if people are afraid of AI because they think of Skynet, majority of the people say, you know, I'm afraid AI is going to take over and destroy us because we're bad to the environment, we create wars. In fact, what we're saying, we're bad parents, and if AI is our child is probably going to hate us. So I kind of want to change that perception, and this is, I think, the major key in how we can deal as well with finding our own humanity. Also, probably help AI find humanity itself. I just typed those two words in Bing Image Create, and you can see it here as well. So on the left, it's rainbow, almost full glass, and there's bright, warm colors, and the glass is half full. And then the other one, it's really dark, and it's sad, and it's like a teardrop falling. It's almost empty and black and white. This is the first image. They're exactly the same as I showed in the beginning, but AI already has this feeling to it. And again, it's because AI is not neutral. It has to learn from something, and it's learning from us people. And I like the fact that I have nieces and nephews, and the way AI learns is quite similar to children, to human beings. Don't know if anybody knows CAPTCHA. Then you need to click the traffic lights. If I read a book to my nephew and I say, can you point to the lion? I'm kind of doing the same. I'm teaching him to recognize objects. So this is the same method that we're using for AI, that we also use it for our children. But again, a kid has to sleep, it has to play, and AI can just learn all day long. So the way we as humans are being taught to look at the world is not so different compared to AI. And this is a really good example. This is Narcissus by Christian Mauclair. And he created an AI, and it looks at itself in the mirror. If it plays the video, yeah. So basically what you see, it has a camera built in, and it looks at the mirror and it looks at itself. And what I really find interesting is that it has not received the proper training. So yeah, the video cut out. But it hasn't received the proper training. So for example, here it sees a circuitry board. But instead of seeing a circuitry board, it sees a photo of a city by night. And it's similar again, like how we as people, we have certain data sets, as I call it, kind of clinical. But sometimes you think you see something in the clouds or you see something in the moon. And I once had an idea for a project. What happens if we have two AIs, two cameras, and one of them we train with only negative stuff, like really angry, sinister stuff. So like forest fires, a sad puppy, and conflict. And another one, only happy things. Teletubby Land, I think we just discussed it during dinner. Shout out to Angela. So one negative, one only positive. So what happens if they look at the same thing, something is going to change. The one says, I see a violent blood red apple. The other says, I see a cheerful bright red apple. And what I really found interesting about this method, how AI looks at the world, is also the same to human beings. If I grow up in a really nice environment with loving parents, then the world that I see around me will probably be a positive one. It will be a happy one. I see better and nice things. And if I grow up in a world that has much more conflict and more sadness, then this is probably also how I look at the world. So this is a thing tech already teaches us. The data set that we have determines the way how we look at the world. Humans are also not neutral, but our unfortunate effect is that our data set, we are trained by upbringing, culture. We don't always have control over it. That our parents have that oral culture. And this is also why it's really important to look at the world from this perspective. So if I see this, it can be a protester, it can be a rebel, it can be a hooligan, it can be a rioter, it can be a terrorist, or it can just be a bottle-throwing enthusiast. And I'm going to make it even more interesting. What do you see now? And what do you see now? So this is how you can see already, the things that we are being fed through the media or through other things really change how we look at the world. Same like AI. If I only give negative stuff to AI, then you see a negative view of the world. And it's the same thing that is happening as well with us. We're seeing lots of negative imagery in the news. So what happens? We become pessimistic, we become nihilistic, and we start to see only the bad things in the world because our data set, again, is being tainted by negativity. So again, it's not that you always need to look with multiple perspectives, but more that you need to become aware of the existence of them. And I mean like this, we became computers. We have really binary thinking. We have good and bad. I'm just going to say it. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is not, if people say pick a side, that's binary thinking. I can't pick a side because it's so complex. Again, I wish it was that simple. It's the same thing with gender. Again, you see as well, technology enables us to change our own identity. Technology is shifting the way we look at the world. It's shifting the way how we look at gender, man, woman. But now suddenly, the more technology advances, the more gray that will emerge between the two. The same thing about protests. When is something a protest? When is something a riot? When is something an attack? So that's what really interests me. And I think the most important thing to really get that going is to enrich your own data set. What I mean by this is the more perspectives you gain, the more dimensions and depth you get. Again, I'm a philosopher, so I'm getting really out there. But what I mean by this is if you look at the world from one perspective, so imagine if I would stand the whole time like this, you would only see this side of me. And if I would stand this, maybe you see 2 dimensions, and I'm going to move a little bit, so you see more dimensions. But again, you see it here as well. So instead of one-dimensional perspective of life, you can enrich it. The more viewpoints you have, more perspectives, the richer the world around you becomes. And especially as a creative, this has helped me a lot in solving issues, in solving challenges. So, for example, don't know if people are familiar with lateral thinking, but it helps you to really come up with creative concepts. If people ask me as a creative, how are you so creative, or how do you become creative? I say, okay, you need to do that by, if you look at the solution or challenge, you need to ditch the one perspective. I really liked video, so I was always trying to solve things using video, and then I learned animation, I learned coding, marketing. But if you have all these vantage points available, then you can find the right solution for the right problem. And you can sometimes also combine things. So you can combine fashion with coding, or you can combine animation with social design. So again, it enriches the viewpoints you have to tackle a challenge. Again, it also, of course, enriches your view of the world. The more perspectives you have of the world, again, if I'm part Indonesian and part Dutch, so I already grew up with 2 kind of perspectives of the world. But that already helps you see things in a different context. It enriches your own life, because suddenly something that was usually like quite one-dimensional, suddenly can become 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, etc. And I think this is also why I became a teacher, because I really like to enrich others. I work at Fontes. So 10 years ago, I graduated there and I started working there again. Because I think it's really important to already prepare people. If tech is taking over, I think it already happened. But I think if we want to prepare students to live in this new world where tech really took over, then they need to know, okay, if tech took over, there are some probably other perspectives that we can take that are not always tech related. I think, for example, I like literature. You can also play video games or attend a workshop. You can watch movies or shows and series. You can go to a gallery, event, or you can listen to, I don't know, I think he's a digital philosopher. But you can go to all these stuff to learn. And I noticed it as well at Fontes, where I teach. We value research a lot, like literature, papers, essays, workshops, lessons. This is what AI is really good at, because everything is online, so AI can just scrape down the internet, so it can just take everything and it can learn. So it's really hard to say to students, okay, this is what you need to learn, because if I'm going to teach them this, in 5 or 10 years, they will probably be passed by AI. So I want to teach them this, and this is a little bit more metaphorical. So I think experience is something that AI does not have. And what I mean by this is the human experience. So if I ask AI, what was your first love? Then they probably come up with a bullshit answer. But this is something an AI has not yet experienced. And if an AI ever experiences this, it's no longer AI, because then it's a human being, in my opinion. But things like, okay, how was the first summer holiday? Or how does it feel to have rain fall on your fingers? Or how does it feel to have the screen go out every time? But these are all human experiences, and this is what humans are really good at. This is not what AI is good at, but this is what humans are really good at. So I say to my students as well, I have a lot of students that do desktop research. It's literally desktop research, as in they just go on the internet. And I say, speak with people, because people are the most important AIs. Sorry to generalize you, but you're also artificial intelligence, kind of digital artificial. Not everybody, sorry. But I noticed that all the people in my life and the people that I spoke, and again, I was very lucky to interview lots of other designers, to talk with them and to meet them, especially during events such as this, because people are perspectives, literally. If I speak with a person, they all have a unique perspective. My girlfriend is a social designer. She also comes to areas where I normally wouldn't go. And I speak with people, and they have a completely different view on the world than I do. But again, it enriches my own worldview as well. A good example is I once spoke with Stella Verdult. She's a designer, and she's really focused on color and fashion. And she once told me this example of a lemon. And if you see this lemon, people are like, it's muffy and it's rotting. And there's decay, there's the green and, I don't know how you call it in English, schimmel. But it's death, it's nasty. And she said, no, I really liked it. There's this nice contrast between the yellow and the white and the green especially in a certain light almost felt like an emerald, like a gem. So she kept that lemon and she let it rot till it was like putrid and had to throw it away. But what I really interested, I do not always agree with everybody, but I like the fact that she was able to find beauty in a filthy lemon, you know. And this is also why it's important, because if you have the right perspective, you can give purpose to anything. Something that was usually considered filthy or messy or something disgusting, you suddenly find very beautiful. I think David Lynch and John Waters also have that. They say ugliness is more important than beauty because it's way more interesting. And this is also why I think it's really important, because if you find the right purpose, you can find meaning. If I ask an AI, why is this beautiful? It just says, bleh. And I want to know, like, yeah, but why is it beautiful? And AI is not going to say, oh, I find it beautiful because my mother used to read it to me before I went to bed. That's the human experience. That's not something an AI can ever learn. So again, in short, I think it's really important to multiply your perspectives, because we all have this data set that we got from our own use, and it really determines, it colors the way how we look at the world, at the people, at the events, everything around us. So multiplying your perspectives, it enriches your view on challenges, the world, and life itself. So yeah, in short, go out and get a new perspective. I think we have a couple more speakers coming up that are really gonna enrich your perspectives. And my main advice is please go out, talk with people. That's it.
Hello. Thank you, Lodi. Patrik, can you come up here to start preparing your technology? So hopefully things will go smoother the next one. Thank you for kicking off like that, Lodi. Does anyone have any questions? Because then I will come to you and you can speak in my microphone. Oh, that was very intimidating, I guess. So you said you went back to teaching.
Yeah.
Because you think that the way we teach also has to change. You touched upon it a little bit in your presentation, but can you give a concrete example of how you feel the teaching systems should change?
Well, I have another friend of mine sitting there in the back, Kevin, raise your hand. He has a minor, for example, and it's about helping people using motion and sports. And they had to solve an issue, I think, for a woman who was confined to a wheelchair. And they were just researching everything on paper, and we were like, just have you spoken to somebody who actually is using a wheelchair? Because they probably know the most how it is. And they did. And one of the insights that she gave was, I like to go, she said, I like to go shopping to Den Bosch, but it's a really, how do you say it, non-accessible city. You have all these, how do you say, cobblestones, kinderkopjes. And as a wheelchair person, it's hell. I like the city, but it's hell. And then they came up with a solution. Why not just add a wheelchair icon to the Google Maps so people can navigate using, if they are disabled or if they have to use a wheelchair, they can just navigate. And it's a win-win because if I'm not using a wheelchair, I see it in Google Maps. I see, hey, wait a second, that person, that group exists. And people that are actually part of the group are actually helped out as well. And this is something that only happens when you speak to your target audience. I'm from marketing. What we do is we say, oh, we have Facebook money, and then we make a video and we put it out in the world in the hope that people are really interested in it. And we pay lots of money so lots of people see it, and then hopefully somebody is going to be saying, oh, that really touched me. So I think we need to flip it around. We need to speak more with people, especially if we want to, if tech is taking over. I think I see it almost like a party. Let them sit in the corner, tech, with all the other tech bros, and then the people are having a nice party. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go with it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said that people are good at experiences, and also you brought up the example of people falling in love with their AI, like the replicas and everything. Why do you think that people, instead of talking to just other people, which is like really basic, right? You find the person you talked with, they prefer to target their, or like direct their loneliness towards
Because it's scary.
to talk to people.
Yeah, I'm also standing here. I'm going to be honest. I'm also a little bit scared, but that's the
Don't
the real
be
thing.
scared.
No, but
okay.
that's the real thing. People are scared. It's yeah. Again, I think they're too afraid. And again, it's like a, how do you say, a spiral. The less you speak with people, the more afraid you become of them. You never gain the social skills to speak with people. So the more afraid you are to do something wrong.
So then, like, go speak to people is actually very difficult to achieve. It's like, it sounds, just speak to people, just do it, but it's...
Yeah, well, you are already here. Again, I know I can't change the world, but even if I change a little fraction of it, I'm happy. So it's all about the right perspective.
And we have network drinks after, so you can talk to each
Alcohol
other.
helps as well.
Does anyone else have a question for Lodi? Yes.
Have you done any research on how people talk with AI or how people address with AI? And more specifically, do they say thank you? Sometimes I'm really happy with the answer and I feel like saying nice.
Yeah, some people do. I had it in a previous presentation. They once did research to people that worked in Afghanistan. And they were using robots to disarm bombs and mines. And there were moments when they were too afraid to send the robot because they actually gave it a name and they fell not in love with the robot, but they saw it as a pet. So they were like, send me to the bomb, not my robot, because I know my robot is going to die. This is real. And this is also a nice, again, what tech teaches me then in that essence, that people are really good in finding the humanity in things. If you saw WALL-E, it's just a robot, but I think there are people who cried at WALL-E. I mean, Yes, I think this is what makes people so unique, is that we are able to find humanity in anything. I think if I would make a video of this chair and I would treat it as a human and then I would kick it, you would be feeling sad for the chair, but it's just an inanimate object.
Yeah, I would feel sad, but how do I actually address? So more on a normal user, daily user, not high-end user, let's say. Then,
yeah.
Well.
Yeah, again, I still need to think about it a bit.
Well, you can think about it. Thank you so much, Lodi. So if you have any more questions, Lodi will still be hanging around here and you can find him at the borrel. And then he is very approachable, so please don't be afraid of him. Thank you very much, Lodi, for your talk. I forgot to mention my own name because I was really nervous to start. My name is Angela. I am your host for tonight. This is what happens when you talk to real people. This is actually the second time that I get to introduce the next speaker. His name is Patrik Hübner. Hübner, did I pronounce it right? Yeah, my German is not that good. I first introduced him 5 years ago in 2018. He was also here for the Dutch Design Week edition of Digital Wednesday. He was one of the first people to talk about creative algorithms and generative design. And 5 years ago, I didn't even know how to pronounce it. I did not have the faintest idea of what generative design was or generative AI. Nowadays, pretty much everybody knows about it. We talk about it. There's 1 million articles being written about it and by it. So Patrik has really made this his whole life, basically. He was one of the first people to start exploring what you can do with it. He's, in the meantime, won more than 30 awards. He works with the biggest brands of the world. So we are very lucky to have him here again 5 years later. So please give a warm welcome to Patrik.
Wow, what an introduction. Now I really need to live up to that. Let me quickly click this thing here. All right, yeah, awesome. Thanks for inviting me a second time. It's an honor to be here. So I cannot, go into such large scales. I want to bring it down a little bit more into the realm of design and communications design, graphics design. That's kind of what I specialize in. But there were some really awesome things that I think are hopefully going to pop up again, maybe in a more practical, design-oriented way. So I want to share with you some of my thoughts on why I'm actually here. Basically, for me, I teach and also talk a lot about generative design, how to apply it, but the past year has been quite interesting in that people are more afraid of the topic, and I feel like there's a lot of discussion around it, what it actually means to be a creative. So I kind of want to focus on that today and just give you my perspective on what I believe the role of cultural and creative professionals could be in times of AI. And I want to do that for multiple reasons that I can hopefully show you in this short amount of time I have. But I have this one thesis, and that is to be successful as creatives in the long run, we really have to adapt to the challenges. And that is something you could print on a t-shirt and just call it a day. So I hope I can show you a couple of very specific things from my perspective. And that's one thing I really want to mention here is that obviously it's just my perspective, right? There's many creative people out there, many different ideas about that. So it's just my take on it in terms of also applying it practically. And these are two really big challenges to ask. What is the role and how do we adapt? So I guess the best way I felt I could tackle it just by tell you a little bit of my story and how I got here and how it all turned out. So I want to do that by showing you a photo of me as a kid. Back then, that's my first computer, and my dad gave it to me in, kind of exchange for foregoing 5 years of Christmas and birthday presents. So I gave that all up just to get that computer. And for me, it's something that really changed my life because I quickly felt this kind of slab of glass and cheap plastic was something that if I was only smart enough, if I would only spend enough time with it, I could basically do anything with it. And obviously, I don't know, that was also young me, doing these big thoughts, but luckily that wasn't the only thing I did, so I got more into programming, etc., but also discovered all the other beautiful creative things this world has to offer, dabbled in music, taught myself instruments, did some really bad writing and photography and whatever. So all of that, like this kind of perspective on computers and programming, but also the other amazing creative things I discovered led to one thing. And that is kind of that at an early age, I felt like I started to question the status quo. And I also grew up at a time where the internet in the 90s was becoming more mainstream. So kind of the question of who is a gatekeeper to knowledge, right? What can a single person actually achieve? During those times, a lot of software was still created by just one person or very small teams. And kind of just this idea of also realizing that the world was becoming more and more mechanized, right? All of this also meant that I could see kind of my own artifacts. So that computer I told you about obviously was outdated before I had paid it off, so that also taught me to never loan money again. At some point I had to also earn some real money, not just think about these things, so I kind of co-founded a design agency back in Germany, which grew from 3 to 50 people, and we specialized in combining branding and electronic commerce at a time where that was not that easy to do. And even at that time, we were using machine learning systems, automation of design to optimize the whole process, A/B, multivariate testing, all that stuff. So basically, we were already presented with a lot of the challenges that automation kind of poses. And for me, that was something I was always struggling with to a degree, because it always meant you can never stop. You always have to, take one step further. You have to be quicker than, all those people out there who are also kind of doing the same thing. And at some point, I also just, felt a little bit bored, kind of always doing the same thing. And just a quick fast forward today, because this has always stuck with me, like these challenges of automation. And nowadays, I also teach generative design and artificial intelligence in Munich, and I ask my students the same thing, like what is driving you? What are you afraid of? What's your outlook on these things? And I feel like they kind of feel the same thing. It's, the world is becoming more complex, things are moving quicker, it's hard to keep up, and there's also this need to always challenge yourself. So if I break it down to two things, I would say, one of the really big challenges we all are facing is this competition. And it's not just from other people, but it's also increasingly from machines. And the second one is constant change. I mean, it's kind of like what defines our lives nowadays. Things are getting much faster, and kind of the idea of disruption has already become somewhat that is kind of mainstream, right? It's just normal to always disrupt and be faster. So for me, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm an optimist, so I'm a glass half full kind of guy, because I also believe that we are at the best time ever for design, because the field of work and the activity that we as designers have is expanding rapidly. So be it the metaverse, AR, VR, media installations, the internet that you surf, social media, all these kind of technologies we use, these are all spaces that we get to design. And I think it's really, really important that increasingly, these are spaces that we need to make sense of, that we need to explain to people, that we need to actually give a certain meaning to. And that's something that I think in this breadth has not been the case before. So for me, that's a huge chance, because I think design makes things tangible. Things which are before just inanimate, just technologies, just things, we kind of get to help people make sense of them, get an emotional connection to it. I guess like if you look at the past, whatever I'm showing here is slides, but really the technological and societal changes that we see are always reflected in the designs and product designs of their time. And I think if you look at these, you will all have a feeling towards these things. And these are not, they didn't randomly arise. They were designed, they were made by humans, by us. And one thing I really try to focus more on is also that increasingly it is about kind of helping people communicate and make sense of things, really to mediate between the different groups we have that are, I guess, more talking about each other than with each other. So all of that kind of lends this idea for me that we really have the ability to shape the world, right? I mean, we can help people understand it and connect with it. And it's kind of a mission statement that I'm increasingly accepting, and that I'm trying to also share, that we're not just generators of media fragments and posters and typography, but we are actually helping people understand this world. But the problem of this is that I think also for designers, it's really difficult to comprehend the increasing complexity of the world, all the technologies. Now you need to learn this. Here's like 50 new frameworks for that. So what do you do, right? I mean, how do you tackle those problems? How do you tackle those challenges? How do you actually keep up? How can we keep up? And I could talk hours, but I only have a few minutes here, so I want to break it down to one thing. And I think it's understanding the core idea of computational thinking. We heard this idea of increasingly becoming robots, and it's also the kind of notion that James Bridle kind of poses when he defines that term in his book, The New Dark Age, that he says if you understand the world more as a system, you tend to also become more of a robot. But for me, again, I'm an optimist, I see it differently. I would say that if you understand the world more as a system, you gain a lot of new perspectives, a lot of new insights. The world is something that can actually become more of an influential part into the work of design and what we do with it. So I would say that it's not a matter of really changing our specific actions, learning the new framework, accepting the new, I don't know, AI into my life, whatever it is, but it's more generally changing the way we think. Because you could argue, and we already heard it, that machine learning and artificial intelligence, if not now, definitely in the future is always going to be faster than us. So we cannot compete with it on, the action kind of level, but we have to understand how it works. We have to appreciate it for the technology it is. And I think it's really important to be able to anticipate what comes from it, how we can work with it, how we can integrate it into our work. So these are all big words, I know. I'm coming to the specific part now. So there's 3 things that I feel like if you take a photo of that later, maybe check the live recording again. If you incorporate that into your kind of thinking, your work, it's going to open up quite a new realm of perspectives. And the first thing, I already mentioned that word, right? It's systemic. It's a big word, but it's not difficult, really. It just means looking at our environment, at our world, and understanding it not just through our heart and through our emotions, but as something that we could actually express as rules. I don't know why I'm getting a bit of feedback here. Sorry for the beeping. So something that if we can describe it in words, if we can put it into rules, then we can actually share it with other people, but we can also share it with a machine, and that's a really powerful thing. So just looking at the world, looking at the patterns, I don't know, flying birds, I don't know, the weather, whatever it is, and understanding it not just as something I have an emotional reaction to, but that I can actually put words as rules into is definitely a very powerful thing to start with. Because then I can use it in a programmatic way. I can actually use it in a way where I kind of utilize that rules and explain them to a computer, make them usable via an algorithm, and thus kind of detach myself, right, as a person, creating that individual solution, but kind of creating a space where we can find solutions. And there's a Swiss graphics designer called Karl Gerstner who already in the 60s dealt with that question, and I'm going to read it, but he said, instead of solutions for programs, programs for solutions. And I think that's a really elegant way of putting it, though again, you have to think about it for a second, but he says, I don't want to create that individual solution, but this whole program that can create multiple solutions. And I think that's a really interesting way that resonates a lot with what generative AI promises, but I think it goes way beyond those things. Because if you combine these 2 things, you end up at this crazy term of generative. And what it kind of means is just as you combine these systemic and algorithmic ideas, and you make them usable, you can actually put them to work for you. Yeah? You can create kind of anything out of it. And kind of specifically, for me, stage ideas from a fresh perspective, right? By focusing on certain elements of our environment and kind of making them the central part of a design, of a project, you can actually get people to look at them freshly and differently. So for me, that were a lot of big words. Let's get back to little Patrik. Music's always been an influence on my life, and it wasn't my limited musical skills that kind of helped me get out of the agency that I was getting somewhat bored of, but it was that I was invited by an music collective who said, like, why don't you join us to create visuals for our music? What if you took, like, I don't know, what we do and turn that into pretty graphics? And I was immediately hooked, after work until, like, I don't know, 3, 4 in the night. I was coding away every day. And I'm taking that example to give you like a very practical idea of what I was doing, right? So I was looking at music as a system. What is music? It's sound over time. It's a very unromantic definition of that, but it's obviously the spectrum, loudness, volume, notes, frequencies, but it's also heartbeat, it's emotions, people dancing and getting together. It's all those things, right? And the more I looked at it, the more I kind of discovered. And that was just music, just this one thing. But I kind of started to ask myself, how can I turn that into a program? What could happen, right? And in the very end, if I combined all of that, and that were generative visuals, right? Things reacting in real time to the music as they were playing it. So that's kind of the formula, that's kind of the core idea, but as simple as it may sound, really, the more you look into the world and the environment, the more you're going to discover, and the more you're going to find that you can do. So that's exactly what I kind of did, right? I looked at all the other things, and I started asking myself, okay, what would happen if people kind of got to control those systems? What if I wasn't the one doing that? What if I increasingly tried to visualize the actual formulas and data sets in the background? What would that look like? But also, what if I tapped into physics and all these other natural processes to drive systems? What if I combined interaction and these complexities with typography? But also, what would happen if I wrote systems that all have the same starting point, but they all get to play their kind of lives out differently? And I was also really interested in humans, because that's in the end what design is about, right? It's about people and connecting with them. So what are people as surfaces, as controllers, as people being part of the system, but also where are the limits? What can you not do? I don't know, with faces, when do things become ugly? Is that possible? And also really like what's on the surface, but also what lies beneath it, right? If you look at people as something which is more skeleton. And also really, how do you make things tangible? How do you get people to connect with this world in different ways? Can you feel it? Can you touch it? What happens if you can't? So all of these things were really, really intriguing. And wherever I looked, I started to find like new influences, new ideas, new possibilities. So kind of that led to new beginnings. For me, I started putting on these new pair of glasses, and wherever I looked, again, I saw these interesting influences, I saw new opportunities, and I tried to sell that to my business partner because I was all hyped, but he was like, nah, just do your music thing and, let's do what we already did. But I felt like I really needed to do it and kind of use it for communications design. And there are two things I feel like what the spectrum of this is, and on the one hand is what I already mentioned, that you can use it for storytelling and really connect people with content in a different way. And then it can also be just a tool. And I want to just show you two little examples to give you a core idea of what that might look like. So here's the first one. I hope it's not too loud. Let's see. So storytelling. How can we use generative design in communication? And there's no music, sadly. It's not as cool without music. What's that? Plug it out.
You have to default
Select it?
headphones.
Right.
And not
External. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's try that again.
In the summer of 2021, 100 Thieves accomplished a feat that had been 3 years in the making. We were approached with a new and creative way to commemorate this team's championship win, and potentially even other teams and accomplishments in the future. Which is why we're excited to showcase this new, one-of-a-kind geoprint pattern. It's called the Champion Print. Every line, every node, and every curve is symbolic of a key moment in each of the 11 winning playoff matches that paved the way to our team hoisting that trophy overhead. From team fights to dragon kills to Baron buffs, all the way to Nexus explosions, it's all meticulously mapped out in 11 geoprint islands. I can't wait to show you guys the first implementation of the Champion Print, which you're going to be getting a peek at very, very soon, so stay tuned.
They're actually getting that peak right now because it's a project that was done last year. But it's one that I found really interesting because while I do love to play video games, I really don't know that much about this specific one. And it was something that was really complex and very deep, and where I found like a lot of connections between team play and the space. So again, in the end, the idea was that we stripped it down to the basics of what the game is about, and we used those data sets to map out all of those champion play games. And in the end, if you know the game, if you run around that specific car, you can actually see the games play out in real time, like as it played out in real time, and you know, where people came together, what they did, etc. So for me, that's if you're influenced by this game, you can really see that story unfold through the design, and that is something which is both in this case possible to do in like frozen in time, because those games have happened, right? But you could also do it for any future games. So again, that's what I mean. I didn't create that specific design for that car, but I created a space that could create designs for all future games that are to come. And then on the other side of that spectrum, if it's not the story that's in the focus, you can also use that as a tool. That is not as, let's say, crazy anymore as it used to be, but it's still something that I want to point out because there's beyond generative AI a lot of use cases. And I just want to show you a very short video of how I have applied it in one case, for example. And this for the, as you read, Philharmonie of Luxembourg, and this is what the actual building looks like. So it felt like, okay, obviously it's music happening in a space. So just bringing that as a very practical design system felt like an elegant and easy solution, especially because the team at the Philharmonie in Luxembourg, I guess like everything in Luxembourg is a bit small, there's really few people and they have to do a lot of work. So in the end, we created a system for them that they can easily use and create all kinds of graphics. And it doesn't stop at what you saw, right? At the top left, you see how everything is based on that individual music by that artist, right? All the little patterns, how the graphics are shifted, all the animations, they're all based on the combination of the geometry of the actual place where it's happening and the individual music. And for me, still, that's like, again, looking at the elements in our world, combining them, we already heard that, and seeing those perspectives and actually giving them a very tangible graphical form. So for the last few minutes that I have, I want to share with you two actual practical approaches of how I believe you can approach that. And again, keep in mind what the role of us creatives can be in times of AI. So the first thing I really want to point out is that I believe it's important to team up with other people, but with machines, because you could argue that the most diverse, the most interesting results always then come to fruition if you bring together different perspectives. And the broader they are, the more interesting they become. So in that regard, I would at least ask everybody who's afraid of AI why you are actually asking if the machine is a competitor, why you do not see that as a partner. Because you could argue that you know, there's hardly any bigger difference between humans and machines, right? We have just very different properties. And in the middle, as you see, there's this idea of co-creation. And I'm very interested in that because it's not about just the human having full control, and it's not about the current promise of all the big tech startups that the machines are going to take over and generative artificial intelligence is going to solve it all. It's in the middle where new ideas and new opportunities arise, and how you kind of combine those things. I think that's where the really interesting stuff happens. And just, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I just want to point out that, you know, this kind of idea of artificial intelligence is nothing more, but also nothing less than the possibility of throwing in form and data and extracting rules from it. That's incredibly powerful, but it is also just that, right? It is nothing more than the possibility of extracting meaning from unsupervised content. On the other hand, you have, you know, a bit more the traditional way of programming where it's a little bit different, right? The rules, I wrote the rules for example, how music is interpreted. It was an AI. And I throw in data, the music set, for example, and it generates forms. So, I mean, these are just, you just flip things around a little bit in these things. What I like to do is I do not use artificial intelligence primarily and only, but I kind of use that to combine it with more traditional approaches. So by being able to extract meaning from data sets, I can, for example, extract emotional data from text. I can ask, is it a positive or a negative message, right? These things weren't accessible before, at least not as well as they were. But again, this is for me the kind of formula of how I see it and how I see it going into the future. And there were a couple of things I was going to say that I'm just going to quickly mention, because I had this year kind of the feeling that a lot of agencies weren't necessarily reaching out to me anymore, because they all said, AI is the solution. We don't need generative design anymore. But there are a couple of things where they're coming back. And it's really the problem that the output is kind of limited to like one dimension, right? Sound, video. While what I showed you here is real time, it's interactive, it's running dynamically. It is kind of the thing that we want it to be. It is more predictable in terms of we can actually tailor make it to exactly be on brand and the way we want it to be, always and all the time. We can also make it free, but it's for me something which makes it more ownable, more controllable. There are different use cases for me, especially the storytelling part is the one I really want to emphasize. It's the one where I feel people have the largest and biggest connections to topics. It's really if there are stories involved. And while AI may dream it up, I think it's just a different kind of meaning, as we already heard. And then there's this idea of the interface itself, like, do you type in a text and get a result? I mean, everything I create, it can be whatever we want it to be, right? It's more tailor-made and it's more dynamic. So that's also something where we're not all using the same approach, but we're using exactly the kind of approach, right? So this is also something very practical that designers can and should do. And the other thing is just that I think it's really important to wake up in terms of that there are new perspectives, there are new paths ahead. I just showed you a very few, but with these increasingly more interesting spaces that come together, that live in our phones, in our pockets, on our heads, wherever, I think there's just incredible opportunity to do cool stuff. I'm sounding like I'm selling you something here, sorry for that. So in the end, it's like really how can our ways of thinking, how can we use that to shape the future, right? And I think it's important to not, again, think about that as people who create just posters or graphics or typography, but as people who connect and bridge those sets of information. And there's one thing I really want to share because I think it's so important is that we need to find new mindsets in this technology-driven world. There's a wonderful book which kind of focuses on this idea. And it kind of says that art and culture provide forms of reflection that kind of people from scientific backgrounds don't necessarily can. And I think that's a really important aspect. By only leaving it to technology, only to kind of computer science people, for example, I think we lose a lot of narrative and a lot of potential and a lot of interesting things. So in the end, I believe it's this kind of combination of technology and storytelling where the future and the interesting elements find. And the last quote, and then I'm done, is by Greg Hoffman, don't know him, and he talks about something totally different, but I felt it was adequate here because he says, if you think this way, then you see what others see, but you find what others don't. And I think that's kind of the superpower of this generative approach of looking into the environment and nature as a source of input, because then you really start to see everything that I started to see as creative new inputs. How that all works, you can check out on my website. Wrote a whole book on the topic. It's going to be hopefully out sometime next year. Shameless plug. So I don't know. Here's a little QR code you can scan if you're interested. Obviously, I have a website, Instagram, thousands of experiments and practical cases. But would very much love just to have sparked at least some inspiration in you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Patrik.
I don't know if I won the slide competition. I think he had slightly more.
Yeah, but then half of the slides were lost, so it's okay.
Yeah, so I
so
just
50%
clicked through it.
of them went away. Does anyone have a question for Patrik? Again? Yeah, that's fine.
So, as a creative coder, you program, you create rules. Do you find yourself in the need to remind people that your work is not done with AI, image generating AIs, but with code? Do you feel that need or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess like that's also what the talk was about to a degree, because again, in reality, really, agency work was actually slowing down this year, and I think it's because a lot of people think that they can now solve all those problems, but to me it feels like in a lot of ways, at least as a shortcut, that doesn't really generate any meaningful long-term results. So indeed, it is about this kind of mindset and really reminding people that just putting in something into a text box and being able to create a good prompt is only barely part of kind of what we do, really, right? And yeah, so indeed, the biggest challenge I actually have is just getting this kind of mindset out to people and creating more interesting projects with that, I guess.
Is there another question from someone?
There was so much output.
Yeah, I think you blew them away with all your generative designs. I really like the...
Otherwise, I'm still here for a couple of beers, so hit me up with questions later.
Yes, he was drinking non-alcoholic before, so now he's looking forward to an alcoholic one.
Just
so
one.
If you stand between him and the bar, I can't promise. No, he will also be sticking around, so if you want to learn more about any of his projects or any of his ways of thinking, then please stick around for a little while longer. In the meantime, behind me, Dries is setting up, Dries Depoorter. He's a very famous Belgian artist. And while we have seen a bit more digital designs in the last few talks, Dries is one who is actually combining analog with digital, so tech with human design. He creates tangible things as well as non-tangible things. He is a very famous expositioner. He has been on South by Southwest. He does a lot of TEDx talks, and he was expositioning at the Museum of Modern Art as well. I was going to give you an example of one of the projects, but he actually asked me not to, because then it would take away a lot of the fun. So I want to give the word to Dries while I stall a little bit longer for the technology to work.
Okay, but
so
let's start.
Yeah, everybody, thank you. Please give a warm welcome to Dries.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, yeah, so my name is Dries Depoorter. I'm an artist working with technology. Most of my work is about privacy, surveillance, social media, and AI. This presentation is only about my own work. I will show projects about myself, and there's some experiments also. And yeah, let's start. Let's start where I started my artistic career. So it started with a project called 24hoursoundwave.com. And it was a pretty crappy website that showed an audio file of 24 hours. And I recorded this audio file with a professional sound recorder around my belt. So it recorded my whole day. I had an audio file of 24 hours, and back then I was a student. So it recorded conversations with my mom, with my friends. It recorded also a party. So I had this audio file of 24 hours. I published it on this website where you can listen to it, but some parts that are private for me, I removed them from that website. So parts that are private for me, that conversation with my mom, with my friends, you're not able to listen back to it, but you are able to buy it for a certain price. And the price is not based on the length, but it's based on the amount of value I gave it to. So it had like audio files of 10 euros, but there were also like audio files of 400 euros. And I really had to think like, okay, this is 200 euro, this is 300 euro. So not a lot of audio files were sold, but you also get a license with that audio file that you can do whatever you want with that audio file. So this was really like the starting point of where I started as an artist, and then later I made like more projects around social media. So one of them is Tinderin. I'm not able to show that unblurred, but it existed out of 10 photo frames, and each photo frame existed out of 2 profile pictures of the same person. One is from LinkedIn and the other one is from Tinder. And I published this on my website, on my social media. and the project went immediately viral. So it was on the Washington Post. Now, there's a lot of slides now of me bragging about that. It was on a lot of websites. So it also ended up at blogs of lawyers because I didn't ask for permission to those people, and lawyers starting to talk about this project. This is one of my favorite articles about the project. It's they talk pretty bad about it, but then they use at the bottom an own profile picture of myself without asking permission. So I thought I was telling a lot about what I've done. A year later, LG published this print campaign. Like, it's exactly the same. It's a copy. You see the white borders, and it's not. I mean, it's not the same pictures, but they clearly copied it. And they published this as a print campaign a year later after I launched my project. They won 2 advertising awards with that as a print campaign. There's a lot of people that worked on this. So this is the credit list. Boom. There's a lot of people on this, but even the planner is on it. But I'm not on the list, and that was kind of frustrated. So I was kind of frustrated. So I launched. So I didn't launch, but I sent an email to the advertising agency to use my project. So it was an email with an invoice of €10,000. They never paid me the €10,000. Yeah, the 2 creative directors of that agency blocked me on social media. I never tagged them on any social media platform, but just in case, they blocked me already. I published this also on my social media, the screenshot, and there were like in the comments like a lot of reaction, like, hey, I also got copied by this advertising agency. So, but yeah, I never got paid, and I was not expecting that they will pay me. But because of this whole viral thing, I got like many emails of advertising agencies and galleries and organizations to make new work. And at the time, I was really into open cameras, and I use a lot of projects where I use open cameras. And when I'm talking about open cameras, I'm talking about cameras that are connected to the internet without a password or a standard password, like admin. And one of the very first projects I've used open cameras was a project called Jaywalking, and it's a project with 3 buttons and 3 screens, and on the 3 screens you see live footage of surveillance cameras that are pointed to crossroads. And I made software with the help of AI. I made software to detect if a person is jaywalking. So if someone is crossing the road when it's red. If the system finds a jaywalker, it asks the visitor this question: would you like to report the jaywalker? And then the visitor can press the emergency button, and it will send an email to the closest police station with a screenshot of the jaywalker. And in attachment you have as an attachment you have a screenshot of the jaywalker, and this is how the email looks like. And it's only an email address that only exists for 10 minutes. A few years later, I made a project called Jaywalking Frames, and it's a wall of 22 meters. With more than 1,000 photo frames of people that are jaywalking from all over the world. So people can watch it, but people can also buy it in the gallery. And the price you pay for each jaywalker is the same as the fine in that country. So the price tag is on the frame. So this time the money doesn't go to the police, it goes to me as an artist. So this is a bit of the software. I'm a huge fan of Python. So some ending up in a gallery, some are ending up in my web shop. I do a lot of, I call them internet projects, and it started with a project called punchmonet.gallery, and I made a small video about this.
In 2012, Andrew Shannon seriously damaged a Claude Monet masterpiece hanging in the National Gallery of Ireland by punching it in front of stunned art lovers. In December 2014, the story made international headlines again as he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for his actions. This shocking act of violence drew mixed reactions on the internet. While most agreed that attacks on artwork were terrible, Some felt strangely attracted to this surprising and unusual incident. We have to admit, we shared this fascination. Introducing punchamonet.gallery, a browser-based 3D game where you can virtually punch a Monet painting. Visitors find themselves in a gallery space similar to the National Gallery of Ireland. Players are given two controls, moving and punching, so they can walk up to the virtual Monet and punch it until it's completely destroyed. As the painting is repeatedly punched, a running tally adds up the dollar value of the damage being done. The simulation clearly struck a nerve on the internet. Tens of thousands of people chose to experiment with violence against art, resulting in a total of 200,000 players after the first week. More than 50,000 people shared the project on social media. For some, virtually punching a priceless artwork was cathartic, a chance to explore a taboo behavior without doing any real damage. The project was featured on a number of important creative and art outlets, and by prominent gaming websites such as Kotaku, Killscreen, and Game Trailers. Try it now at punchamonet.gallery.
And that really, then I started making more online projects. One was a scratch kit. It started in my web shop, but it's a scratch kit where you're not able to win money, but you are able to win up to 25,000 fake followers for your Instagram and Twitter account. And you can really win them. I will show you later how that works. So it started in my web shop and then went more physically. So now I have those, I think 3 or 4 of those vending machines where I sell them in galleries and art organizations. They sell pretty good at Instagram museums and online, of course. I made an update about this project and it's called Quick Fix.
Quick Fix is an art installation that makes it possible to buy likes or followers in just a few seconds. This is how it works. Choose your product, pay the cost, enter your Instagram username, and you're done. You will have the likes or followers delivered in just a few seconds. Check your phone and start celebrating success. Quick Fix. Influencers love it.
Yeah, so this is kind of a following project on the scratch tickets. This is a first version. I always make like multiple versions of my work. While I'm creating, I see the mistakes or when it's finished. So it's like not finished. So this is inside, there's like a debug screen. And this is version 2. It does exactly the same. It has now a different design and a touch screen. Let's do a little experiment. I will show you how that machine works. So can someone hold my mic while I'm on the computer typing? Okay, so I will show you. I prepared. Yeah, perfect. So let's show how easy it is to give a random cat on Instagram 10,000 likes. 10,000 extra likes. So let's choose a cat, maybe not, let's maybe one of those 3. This has less likes, 1,000. So it has now 1,300. And okay, I prepared something for tonight. So this is a little program that is exactly the same as Quick Fix. So I said like 10,000. Okay, let's do 11,000. 1, 2, 3, yes. Then the program asked me a link to the post. Okay, I copy this link. And then normally if everything goes all right, at the end of my presentation, the cat will have more than 12,000 likes. So it will start slowly. Let's refresh. Okay, we're already at 2,000. But then at the end, it will have 10,000 likes. So it's not something that happens in my browser. You can look up this account, and you can see it growing. Thank you very much for the mic. But actually, how that works, I have 50,000 Instagram accounts, 50,000 on Twitter, and they're automatically created. I can make sure they like your post, they follow your account. So I would say like that's how easy it is, but it's not easy. So yeah, this is only for a presentation. So I only show this for presentations with like quick fix. You're not able to buy 10,000 or 50,000 likes or followers. That's only for like with small amounts. Surveillance paparazzi, that's something different. It started with the service of Microsoft. Microsoft has a service where you can detect celebrities in images. Actually, it has. It's now, they removed it. But this is an installation, I will show you a small video, where it's like constantly searching open cameras again in Hollywood in order to find a real celebrity. So it's actually like kind of remote paparazzi. So it checks if there's a face. If there's a face, it will check if it used the service of Microsoft to find the celebrity. And actually they removed the service also. But when it was working, this was the results screen. One screen is showing the process and one screen is showing the results. So this is showing the results. It's like shows, so what I get back from Microsoft is a name and a confidence level. And then the results screen is showing more information from Wikipedia. So then it's like showing the first sentence from Wikipedia and an image. Voila, this is in a doorbell in Hollywood, and this is the same doorbell, but with a different person. And they're all false positives, so they're all lookalikes. I didn't find a real celebrity. Surveillance speaker, that's a piece that is represented a lot in public spaces. So it's a camera, a motor, and a speaker that is mounted to each other, and it can move. Did you saw already a picture, or what's up? So yeah. Okay. So if the speaker was here, it will say like, I see a dark room full of people, and out of the speaker you always hear what the camera is seeing, with a really natural voice. And it's a piece that I always update a lot. So there's always new technology out there, new computer vision, new text to audio. So that's something I update a lot. So now, this is a small update I made 2 weeks ago. I painted the whole thing black. Voila. But I'm doing more updates on the software itself. Voila. Let's talk about one more project. I mean, in this category. So this is a trophy camera. It doesn't look like a camera, but it's a photo camera where you can take photos with it. And it will only make award-winning photos. So first, I trained a neural network that can recognize award-winning photos. So if you take a photo with the camera, with the trophy camera, then it will say like, hey, this looks 40% as a world press photo. If it looks more than 90% as a world press photo, it will upload it to a website. So you can select your award you want to win. But if like a lot of like world press photos are taken at war zones, so this is an award-winning photo that the trophy camera took. It has some, like a lot of world press photos, there's a lot of weapons in the photo. So if you act like you have a weapon, you have a higher chance to get selected. Voila. Another project, it's called Die With Me, and it's my first app I developed, and it's an app which you can only use when you have less than 5% battery on your phone. If you have less than 5% battery on your phone, you can use the app and you end up in a chat room with other people having less than 5% battery on the phone. So you can see each other's battery state. It's one public chat room, and a lot of people are chatting really fast. There's a lot of spelling mistakes. And it was so hard to get it in the Apple App Store. Like for months, they ignored it. And this was the reason. They always like, we found the usefulness of blah, 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 blah. And that was so hard to get it in the Apple App Store, to get it approved. And on my birthday, they approved it, so I launched it, and the app went immediately
Low
viral.
battery, no problem. You can still chat it up. I've got just the app for you in tonightsdaily.com.
So a lot of people shared it. It was on a big blogs. A lot of YouTubers talked about it. Yeah, that was super cool to see. I won a few awards with that, or even the Wall Street Journal, and then it was the #1 in the Apple App Store for more than 2 weeks in the category paid. So it also became sort of my job. A lot of people starting to copy it. After a week, I launched it. So the first copy was called Die With Me. It has exactly the same name. I sent those guys an email like, hey, remove it in 24 hours. Otherwise, I'll send you my legal team. I didn't have a legal team at the time, but it sounded just really cool. They didn't remove it, but they changed the name from Die With Me to Live With Me. And then all those are all copies. Some even have the exactly same design. In exhibitions, I don't like to show an app, but like with this, I showed it with the neon lamp, and next to it you have the chat room. Sometimes I update it, so now you can be verified. You don't need to pay €8 or €9 a month, but you can be verified. And you also, I call it the 5% update, so now you can pay €5 in the app, and then you can start using it from 10% battery instead of 5% battery. On Black Friday, I doubled the prices, so it's twice the amount of money you pay, and it's my best-selling day every year. I will skip a project, otherwise I will go over time. Maybe I can try to explain it in one sentence. So it's a kind of a machine that always shows a sunrise, sunset, real time, with the help of open cameras. I will go short about this. This is Short Life. It's my first product, and it's kind of personal because it's called Short Life, a clock to remind you that life is short. And you can order it through my web shop, and what it shows is it shows how much % of your life that is already completed based on your life expectancy in your country where you've been born. So it uses data from the World Health Organization. People, if you order it through my web shop, you fill in your birthday and your country where you've been born, and then it uses data from the World Health Organization. Voila. Let me skip one more project. Okay, this is one of my latest. It's called the Flemish Scrollers, and I made a small video about
The Flemish Scrollers is an art installation tagging Belgian politicians when they use their phone on the daily live streams. This is how it works. Every meeting of the Flemish government in Belgium is live streamed on a YouTube channel. When a live stream starts, the software is searching for phones and tries to identify a distracted politician. When a politician is too long on the phone, a video of the person is then posted to a Twitter and Instagram account with the politician tagged. This is all done with the help of artificial intelligence and face recognition. The Flemish Scrollers was featured in important news outlets. A few Belgian politicians reacted in the media. The art installation was premiered on April 1st, 2022 in Lausanne, Switzerland. Please stay focused.
Yeah. So for me, it was also important to show the hardware behind everything. So first I made the software, and then later I made this, it's a custom server rack, where you can see the whole process, how it happens. It makes a lot of noise. And actually, this is the picture that a lot of people shared. This is how the tweets look like. And actually, the day after I launched it, some things changed in Belgium. So the day after I launched it, they filmed the meeting. They started to film the meetings differently. Like before, they filmed it from far away, the live stream. And now, the day after I launched it, they started to film it from really close. Or only the person that is talking. This is one of my latest projects of last year. It's called Border Birds, and I made it together with my sister. She's a photographer, Bieke, and it's actually a series of photos of birds that are crossing borders. So first I found open cameras that are protecting borders of two countries, and then I used object detection to detect a bird. So if a bird is crossing the borders, it will take a picture and I sell them in this photo frames, and half of the profits goes to the Red Cross that helps people crossing borders. This is a project of exactly a year ago. It's called The Follower, and it's a video, and it's again using open cameras, and it's also about social media. So at one side you see an Instagram photo, and at the other side you see how that Instagram photo was taken with an open camera. So yeah, I used Instagram. So I used first an open camera, recorded it for a few weeks. At the same time, it was saving images of that location on Instagram. And then the hardest part was to match them up, to find that exact moment. So it's like 8 minutes of people posing. So I published this video on YouTube. And I got so many reactions of that. A lot of people checked out the video, and even like Meta sent me a personal email like, hey, we're not so happy with what you've done. We want to have a video call with you. Voila. Let me... yeah, even the Wall Street, the New York Times did an article about this. They were contacting Meta, asking for a reaction. They also went to my place to interview me, and also visit the locations of the cameras, if that's legal or not. And then one of my latest projects is currently in Rotterdam, and it's called Recharge. It's a seat where you can lay down and relax. And next to it, there's a little table, and on the table you can charge your phone. But you are only able to charge your phone if your eyes are closed. So there's a camera tracking your eyes, and I think there's something really poetic about this, like you charge yourself by closing your eyes while you're charging your phone and to get back on the internet. So this is my latest project. This is a bit how it technically works. Yeah, thanks for listening, and I will go back also on the Instagram post. But thanks for listening.
Someone somewhere in the world is freaking out right now why this stupid photo of his cat is suddenly
going viral. Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is happening? We sometimes also felt that way about the technology, so we're really sorry. In the back we were going, what the fuck is happening? But I guess that also answers the question that tech really isn't taking over yet because it can't fix these kind of solutions for us. Does anyone have any questions for Dries? What? Okay, I have a question.
There's a question there.
Did you do the interview with the video call? Yeah, did you
Very
do the
good
interview
question.
with Meta?
No, I didn't. No. No, I was thinking that I can only say bad things during that interview, and I don't want to work with Meta at this moment. So yeah, but it was kind of weird to receive this kind of email. So yeah.
You mentioned before in one of your first projects that you said, I will send my legal team after you.
But now I have a legal team. I mean, it's not a team, it's 2 people, but I ask for advice. Like with the Tinder LinkedIn project, I didn't do any research in if I can do that or not. But now, before I publish a project, I ask for legal advice. But sometimes it's hard to know. Yeah, they sometimes also say like, we have no idea, this is kind of a gray zone, and then it's like sort of a risk analyst, like, okay, you can present it this way, then it will be more legal, but yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question? Yes.
Where does your humor come from? And also,
I have no idea.
I guess as a creative, I wanted to know how we can use humor as a fuel of creativity to create like some social impact or something that touch people or make people laugh.
Oh, that's such a hard question. Maybe we can talk about this in the bar with the beer, and maybe I will give you a long explanation, and there will be some answers in that. So I have no clue to, yeah.
Serial question asker.
Did someone ever ask you to, like, no, what was the question? No, I forgot. No, did someone ever ask you to turn your project into something more practical, to transform one of your projects to another?
Oh,
effect?
a lot. It happens a lot to the Flemish Crawlers, the project with the politician. So a lot of people from outside the country ask me, hey, can you do this for my government? There was some crazy email also from a company in France, and they sent me like, they even called a number in their email, so they wanted to buy the software and to use it on their employees because, and they called a number, and I thought it was a crazy email. Also,
exactly, did you do it?
No. And there was also some interesting email from, actually it was a viral video on TikTok. It had like 5 million views about the project, The Follower. So the project with Instagram and the open camera next to each other. And the person itself, explains the project, but the person explains it wrong. The person explains it as, this is a tool where you just can upload an image and then it will find a video. The output will be a video with the help of open cameras. That was totally not the case, but then I received like lots of emails like, hey, my ex-girlfriend went out yesterday, where is your software? But then that were funny emails, but then there were also like emails from like, hey, I'm a dad, my son was murdered a year ago, there was a camera, but for legal reasons I didn't have access, or we can't get access to this camera. And then those are the emails I reply, like, okay, I can only do this with this specific kind of cameras, and I can't go back to a year ago. But yeah, a lot of like people, I publish it as art, but a lot of like companies see a practice in that. But yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, sometimes it's good, but sometimes not. Okay. Very cool.
Say your legal team was so good that you didn't have to abide by any laws. Would there be one dream project that you really want to do, but you can't simply because it's illegal? I want to have my project as legal as possible. No, I think most of the ideas that I come up with are still okay, are legal. So I will not go crazy. Yeah, nothing at the top of your head. So
no,
that's good.
Okay, no,
Final question.
Where do you find inspiration?
Very good question. That's a difficult question also. But I have this tactic where I note a lot on my phone. And random thoughts, random ideas, bad ideas, good ideas. And then what I see is that I combine like 2 bad ideas with each other, or 2 good ideas are a really good idea. So I like to combine sometimes thoughts from 5 years ago with something that I came up with yesterday. But sometimes it's there for years. For example, for Die With Me, it was noted a lot in my phone. It was noted in my phone as a thought because I was not able to find my hotel in Copenhagen because my phone died. And then I had the idea, okay, let's create an app which you can only use when you have less than 5% battery. But then that was for years in my phone, but I didn't find a solution. I was really like, okay, what does that app needs to do? Like maybe I was really thinking in games and dating apps. But then one day, like, okay, it can be just a chat app. And then it's like, then I work, and then I start working. So it's like combination of thoughts, ideas on my phone.
Thank you very much. Please, one last round of applause for Dries. All right, so we have a final act. That's Zoë Low. She's going to sing a very special song for us today. And someone who's going to tell you all about how this song came about and the whole thought and intricacies behind it is Samet. He's here from Handpicked agencies. But before I introduce him, who has heard of the AI Song Festival before? Oh my God, one person. Oh no, two. Wow, okay. I didn't, not before tonight, and it's good that most of you also didn't, because Samet can tell you everything about it. He is an innovation officer from Handpicked agencies, and he will give a very nice introduction. So please give a warm welcome to Samet.
All right. Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about the AI Song Contest. How many of you follow the Eurovision Song Festival? A few, yeah? But you probably know what it is, right? Yes, thank God. So, the AI Song Contest is the AI version of the Eurovision Song Contest. And I'm here on behalf of my team. Our team is a group of musicians and technicals, all collaborating on this, that collaborated on this song, on our AI song. So Zoe is going to sing, but it all started with Dennis van Leeuwen. He's a guitarist from Kane. He came to our office and I was giving him an hour-long presentation about inspiration, basically. And on my last slide, I had a slide just casually mentioning we wanted to enter the AI Song Contest, and that's where it all started. He said, call me in a week and we'll talk about it. And he brought all the other people together, and I was responsible for the technical side of it. And I want to talk you through what it means to generate a song with AI. But first of all, some facts. The AI Song Contest was started by the Dutch public broadcast, NPO and VPRO, and it's based on the Eurovision Song Contest, but it is international. It's not by country. Everyone can enter, and the focus is on AI. So the question we asked ourselves is, how do you generate AI music? But then you ask yourself, what is AI? Like, which tools fall in these categories, what doesn't, and how do we distinguish between those? And then we started to ask ourselves, what is music? Like, how can we break down music? What does it mean to generate music? Because when you involve AI and music, basically anything can be music. Even something like this. Like, we can all agree it is music. Is it good? It's subjective, but it is music. So for this project, we had to set some ground rules. The first one is we do not do things by gut feeling. Like, it is, for musicians, it's really easy to rely on years of experience. And for us on the technical side, it is really easy to rely on our experience. We said no gut feeling, everything has to be backed by data, and used AI in the process. So, and we also said it actually has to sound good, because it is really easy to say, well, it is what it is because we used AI. It actually has to be a song that you would listen to in the car, that you would hear on the radio. And it should be Eurovision Song Festival worthy song, so it should be able to enter the actual contest. Those were the ground rules. So then the data. We analyzed all Eurovision Song Contest songs, over 160. We looked at the points they got during the actual events throughout the years. And we found that the best scoring songs were about love. And not just any kind of love, but about heartache, love, longing for love, missing someone. And also, we saw that we had some facts about BPM, what key most songs were in, which songs, best performing songs had a key change in them. But we also found that most popular songs were Europop style songs. So that was the basis for our song. We had the data, so we were going to continue with that. Then for the tools, we said at the beginning we have to use AI tools for them, for every part of the process. So from idea generation to the video, the backstories of the people singing, and also the sounds, instruments, everything you hear. And what we ended up with is a song about love between AI and a human. It is a little bit Shakespearean kind of love between them, longing for love. But we needed lyrics. And how many of you have used ChatGPT? It works really good, right? Until it doesn't. And there's just no way to get it to work the way you want it. And it's the same with lyrics. So we wanted a specific rhyming scheme. So ChatGPT, the way it works is it tries to find a match that matches, it puts things in a logical order. So when you ask it to rhyme, it rhymes like basically a child. And we didn't want that. We wanted something that was that actually worked. So what we did is the older GPT models, GPT-2, is open source and you can retrain it to your liking. So we use all Eurovision Song Contest lyrics to retrain GPT and generate new lyrics. Verti? Kan ik gewoon verder? Okay, I can continue. So that was for the lyrics part. We ended up with really good lyrics, but then we needed a voice. And for the voice we used, I've been programming for 20 years. I've been trying to clone voices for the last 6, and it's really, really hard. It has gotten better, but trying to get, so text-to-speech works great. Text-to-singing voice was a really challenge. But we ended up with a system that actually works, and I'm gonna
My circuits process, data they churn. For the warmth of true love, I deeply yearn.
So on itself, it sounds a little bit bland, but if you add a human voice to it.
How would you touch me if you had a heart? Would you hold me tight? How would you touch me?
So then it starts to sound like a song.
Let me fall apart.
Yeah. And for the video, we use Stable Diffusion. You can train it with data. You can use something called a control net. So we had someone that's a choreographer make a video, and we transformed that video into a music video by replacing the actual video. And what you see here, on the left you see the actual video, and on the right is the generated version of that video. And when we started this project a few months ago, this was the quality. And the quality we get right now is Ultra HD. So these are also images I've generated with the same technology, but just due to time and the information that we get, the quality is a lot better nowadays. And on the final slide, why did we do all of this? The most important part is we all see our industries changing, right? We see the impact that AI has on our business, but also in the music industry. Like we already see what ChatGPT did for marketing, for text, and it is going to eventually happen in the music industry, even though some parties are trying to stop that. So the impact is going to be big, and these musicians wanted to be at the forefront of it, see what kind of output you can get, and actually embrace that AI in that musical process so that they can work faster, better, or create more unique sounds. And on my last slide, I have a little favor for you guys, because we are one of the 10 finalists for the AI Song Contest. We are going to Spain to the final, but there is also public voting. So there's a public, there's a jury voting. We could get an award for that, but we also get an award for popularity. So if you would like to vote, I would be very grateful. Thank you, guys.
Does anyone have any questions for Samet? Yeah, I'm trying. I don't know if that's going to fuck it or not. So, as mentioned, thank you. Sorry, that was really loud. Zoe here is the performance. She's going to be live performing together with the AI. This is her. So Zoe, tell me whenever you're ready, and then I will start.
Yeah.
All right. Please give a warm round of applause for Zoe.
How would you touch me? If you had a heart, would you hold me tight? How would you touch me?
I was created to understand love, but could never feel it like a human does. My circuits process, data they churn. For the warmth of true love, I deeply yearn. Can love be real between us? Or is it just an illusion?
How would you touch me if you had a heart? Would you hold me tight? How would you touch me? Not skin, but you do have a mind. You're not from this world, but to me, you're one of a kind. How would you touch me? If you had a heart, would you hold me tight? How would you touch me?
Love between AI and a human. As we hold on to each other. Never die. Never die.
Touch me.
Thank you so much. So again, the QR code, so now you actually know what you're voting for. Thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight. I hope you had a lot of inspiration. Thank you so much for all the feedback, for all the questions. All of the speakers will be joining us at the bar in just a little bit. Thank you again to all the sponsors. And if you liked what we did here today, we could actually really use some more volunteers. So if you feel attracted by, not me, but by this event, please find someone who is wearing a Digital Wednesday shirt. Just pull them on their sleeve and say, hey, I want to help out. How can I do that? Thank you for joining, and have a nice evening.